to hand over to the next speaker, and she is our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Bollman. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction. Dr. Bollman she's responsible for international cooperation at the Institute for Work and Health of the German Social Accident Insurance. After studying education and philosophy, she conducted research in the field of schools and further education and developed curricula for various professions. Dr. Bollman is a member of the editorial board of Safety Science, a member of the Training Advisory Council of OSHA Africa, a member of the advisory group for OSH Digit Erasmus Plus project of the EU OSHA Healthy Workplace campaign. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Bollman.
Dear Ugoshi, dear other organizers of the 6th Annual School Safety Summit, dear participants, thank you very much for inviting me. It's really an honor for me to be allowed to speak at this precious and important event. And I hope very much that I will be able to meet your expectations, because listening to Ugoshi, I think there is already a lot in place, and I will nevertheless start to unfold what I was asked to report here. In the following, I will first give a short information about the ANETOSH network and then present a systematic approach to the integration, we are calling it mainstreaming of safety and health into schools. For this purpose, I will describe the characteristics of such a systematic approach. I will go into the understanding of school safety as a development process, and I will explain the factors and principles of such a strategic approach. What about the European Network Education and Training in Occupational Safety and Health, ANETOSH? I'm the coordinator of. If I would have known before that it would have been nice to tell a story here, I would have started in a different way, because in fact, ANETOSH is now 18 years old and there would be many stories to tell, but I think no time for this at the moment. But the aim of our network, I can describe. The aim is to integrate safety, health, and well-being into the education system. And first of all, to promote quality education by doing this. And finally, to build a culture of safety and health, of prevention at individual, organizational, and societal levels. There is a certain policy background since 2017, when the European Commission launched the European Pillar of Social Rights. Our lawyers thought, well, what does that mean? Because rights, that's legislation. No. That's a very fundamental paper with a big impact on our work since 2017, because here in this paper is described that education, as well as safety, health, and well-being at work, are fundamental human rights. The paper is bringing this together and focusing in its first part on education. What is the scope of ANETOSH? To achieve our goal of integrating safety, health, and well-being into the education system, the network covers all educational levels. You can see here the nice picture from preschool until continuing vocational education and training for adults. ANETOSH offers a platform for OSH experts, but always for education experts to work together. And that's not something self-evident. It's sometimes difficult to bring those parts of people, kinds of experts together and to enable them to find a common language. Some figures in a snapshot about ANETOSH. We consist of more or less 100 members from 39 countries. In our database, there are stored about 1,000 good practice examples from 54 countries. As far as our website is currently being relaunched, I can only give the average. We are freshing everything up. And if you are visiting the website, there is not everything perfect at the moment, but we will hope to be able to finalize the relaunch in June. We have 24 ambassadors representing Anitosh at the national level, several memorandums of understanding, for example, the important one with Osh Africa. We conducted some empirical studies in the past and made some publications. You can see the years here. Mostly there's a time gap of 2 years to put something properly in place. And we are conducting regularly events and meetings at the moment online, but hopefully in person soon again. One of our examples of good practice is, of course, the safety check. And you can see here how it is presented on our new website. That's already the new feature. Anitosh has its own strategy. In 2021, we last revised our strategic framework and agreed on a dedicated action plan. You can find this resource on the website as well. But what does it mean to systematically integrate safety and health into schools? And again, if I would have known before to tell you a story, then I would have chosen maybe a slightly different approach, because behind this, what I'm referring from now on is mostly German-speaking communities, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and all their thoughts and achievements you will be able to follow as far as I'm able to present them in 20 minutes. 2 levels can be distinguished if you would like to take a systematic approach. Level 1 is making people into authentic human beings. In Europe, this means development of the child into an autonomous individual. At the African continent, it may be different. Ubuntu, a person is a person through Ubuntu, a person is a person through other people. The second level refers to the organizational development, making OSH, occupational safety and health, an integral part of the school. And the focus of my speech is on this second level. What are the characteristics of a systematic approach? A systematic approach is holistic in nature. We are calling it the whole school approach. It's no longer only about individual behavior changes, but more about improving the learning and teaching environment on the whole. We are trying to achieve the development of a safety culture at schools, and we are embedding prevention in schools in a wider life course approach. What does that mean? As safety and health in later stages of life is influenced by the competences, attitudes, experiences acquired and made in previous life stages, it is necessary to embed school safety and prevention in schools into a wider life course approach. You can see the graph here, and you can realize the blue bullets here, the blue circles here, that it is necessary to address the determinants of safety and health before the transition to school age and adulthood. The life course approach starts even from pregnancy, birth, and early childhood. And you can see at the bottom of the graph here some recommendations for interventions for each of these stages or phases of life. For example, support in building secure social bonds during early childhood or even earlier. Interventions at school age may be building risk competence or road safety. And during adulthood, it may be drug prevention or the crucial work-life balance. Following a systematic approach means understanding the integration of safety and health into school as a school development. School safety as a school development means take into account the unique characteristics of each single individual school. There is no one-size-fits-all principle. Try to have a long-term approach. Prevent, promote, and improve in a comprehensive, holistic way. All decisions are made with safety and health aspects in mind means that school safety becomes a matter for the school community as a whole. School safety and health should become an integral part of the organizational culture of the school. And you can see the picture here drafted or painted by Heinz Hundeloh. It comprises the phases of diagnosis, goal setting, planning, intervention, and evaluation again and again and again during this development of the school, with the corresponding steps and phases of risk management at the core business of occupational safety and health in school as well. In order to understand and to structure the development process, I find it helpful to distinguish between three fields of action. I'm always keeping them in mind. The action field, staff development, the field of teaching development, and then last but not least, the organizational development itself. For the staff development, it's important to have, Ugoshi mentioned it before, enough teachers. And that's a huge problem in Africa, I think, but in Germany, for example, as well. We have always a lack of teachers, and then there is a lot of pressure to conduct things properly and to give additional advice regarding safety and health in it. On the top of the pillar, what they have already to do. We need talented, motivated, and healthy teachers, and there should be further training and continuing professional development in place. We have to make teachers fit for their roles, and safe and healthy teachers developing an organizational structure that is suitable for achieving good school quality means that safety and health related duties are assigned to certain departments or roles. For example, assign a chairperson for risk assessment in your school. That there are rules for desirable and necessary behavior in terms of safety and health written down. That the classroom is arranged so that in the classroom we enable safe and healthy behavior by an ergonomic learning environment, and that statutory guidelines are implemented in the school. Finally, I would like to focus on 6 factors and 3 principles of a strategic approach that you can carry home, I think at a minimum, the 3 principles in the end. Please allow me one preliminary remark. As far as countries in Europe and abroad, for example, in the African region, differ in terms of their economic and social conditions and the value they place on safety and health. As far as education and school systems are also very different, the following cannot be taken as concrete instructions, but rather as a small recommendation. Factor 1 is the language. And please listen. Being safe and healthy is not a task of education. No, education task is education, to teach and to develop proper personalities and so. But being safe and healthy is not a primary task of education. Therefore, safety and health measures should contribute to schools fulfilling their role as educators. The implementation of safety and health measures should be combined with already existing school initiatives. The language used must be that of the education sector, not that of the OSH sector. Factor 2, goals serve as a good orientation. The goals should be specific, attractive, realistic, and scheduled. And you may be familiar with the SMART ideology, I would call it. They should be measurable as well. Factor 3, cooperation. OSH measures should be implemented in cooperation with the education sector. That may be already self-evident in Nigeria, in Germany, for example. It's still a long way to go to get measures drafted, designed by occupational safety and health people in place in educational establishment in cooperation with, for example, the National Education Ministry, regional or local school authorities, or the schools themselves involved. Cooperation with the community around the school can be beneficial as well to integrate the measures in everyday school life and to make them more sustainable. Factor 4, the multi-level approach at the bottom of this slide, if you can read it, I'm not sure. Multiple levels of the school system should be actively involved. School heads, students, local regional school authorities, the education ministry. And factor 5, that's my favorite factor, participation. Participation is key for mainstreaming OSH into education. Students, parents, teachers or their representatives, the school heads, but also maybe the custodian, the community around the school, as well as external partners, should be involved in the planning and implementation of safety and health measures in schools from the early beginning, not afterwards, from the early beginning, doing the planning together, and then finally being able to evaluate. The last factor, the resources and support, play a key role as well. Teachers must be prepared. They must be supported by their superiors. The rooms should be sufficient and there should be appropriate equipment. And last but not least, there should be a social integration of all involved parties. 3 principles I would like to present to ensure that each measure is sustainable, and by this I would like to sum up. First of all, the competence orientation. Students and teachers should be competent in safety and health. They should have the skills, but also the confidence and understanding to continue participating in safety and health activities during their whole life. Secondly, the holistic perspective again. It is important to focus on both the safety and health results and on the education results. Measures should not only aim at changing individual attitudes and behavior, but also at modifying the legal, organizational, social, and material framework conditions for occupational safety and health and education. And very important, the interrelationship between mental and physical health and learning should always be taken into account. I give a quote by a colleague of mine, Peter Paulus. Healthy school students learn better and healthy teachers teach better. And last but not least, the principle of the development approach. Try to avoid one-off initiatives, but prefer a long-term intervention. You may refer again to the school development cycle. I presented some slides in advance. To achieve this, you may, for example, establish a school management group, and the school should be the driver of its own change from inside. On my last slide, I put some references referring to myself and colleagues of mine where you can find the background for these few slides I have presented now. And please give me an extra second to announce the next Anatosh event carried out in cooperation with the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work. We will have an online session on June 23rd, and the registration for this online event is open until the 14th of June. Therefore, you can still register for a special event on this strategic approach, but with a certain focus. We focused on good physical health because normally we are nowadays speaking about mental health problems, and therefore we thought to focus again on physical health, on movement, on play, on exercise, and then to develop the interrelationship with the mental side, with mental issues and good quality education especially. Thank you very much for listening. Here are my contact data, and to admit, I'm not getting younger, I'm getting older. I should change the picture. Thank you very much and have a good conference.